good morning. And as usual, this Friday, we have another episode of B2B Sales and Marketing Fry Talks with me, Andrejs and Rolands Ozolinch. During our conversations, we share insights, best practices, and anecdotes from sales and marketing leaders of technology companies of different scales and size. And today we just two of us with no guest speaker, and there is a reason behind that. So recently Roland was running a training for leaders of IT companies here in Latvia. And during this training, they were discovering the growth planning for the business, how to approach it, and how to plan it properly, and so on and so forth. And one of the questions was about the scalability. And what came out of this discussion, there were a lot of questions around the cost side of scaling your business, and especially internationally. And let's just spend this half an hour today understanding what are the costs behind international expansion, what we need to consider when we plan and execute our activities in other markets. And first of all, I would like us to maybe, just to remind about what is the difference between doing business locally and then going to other market internationally. So Roland, what is your take on this?
Well, I think that for many companies who are successful in local market, going to external market may bring quite a lot of surprises, because I think that in local market, and particularly if you're working with in smaller market like here in Latvia or Baltics, you can do quite a lot by having significant reputation, awareness, recognition in market, and so on. However, when you are stepping outside, you cannot rely on these fundamentals you have locally. And then you need to think about such things as marketing content, marketing technologies. You need really to think how you can scale out and how you can engage large number of contacts and nurture them. Because the logics of pipeline, of sales and marketing pipeline, is that even to close one deal, you probably need somehow to engage, hundreds, perhaps even thousands of relationships. And by relationship here, I mean that you need to somehow to attract attention. You need to make sure that your content is consumed either let's say on social media, or your thought leadership things and pieces such as white papers, ebooks, and so on. And also you need to rely quite a lot on digital marketing. So this game of business, if you want to go externally, very often is quite different from what you are doing locally. Of course, if you are, let's say, in larger markets such as, I don't know, Germany or let's say Poland, probably many of those requirements you are already doing in your local market. But from smaller market going outside, it can be quite significant differences.
Yeah, I also would like to add here that probably another perspective to look at it is how do you position yourself, right? So when you are in the local market, you probably already well-established business. You have your customers, and customers knows you. You have your brand and many other aspects what helps you drive business, right? However, when you go outside, nobody knows about you. And we spoke about this earlier as well in some other episodes. And for those who are interested in more details to learn about this, definitely please take a look at one of our first episodes where we dedicated our conversation on the international market expansion. But this positioning and how do you, and the value proposition is another perspective looking at. But let's maybe dig deeper into the cost side of this. So imagine, you go out, you start building your international business capacity, but how to understand what will cost? What are the main cost components what you need to take into consideration?
Yes, I would say that there are quite a few. And first of all, if you are going to expand in international market, you need to start from proper planning, right? And one of key elements is planning your go-to-market strategy, right? And here the first point would be to try to understand the market, do some kind of market research. Well, Fortunately for us, in the European Union, selling abroad is rather easy. And you are quite free to choose many different markets. You can sell, let's say, in Eastern Europe, in Western Europe, and so on. But a good starting point is doing market research and starting with client interviews and competition research, right? And this is something that you can do internally, but nevertheless, it's a cost. It will take time, or you can entrust it to be done by, let's say, some kind of consultant, such as ourselves. Right, and if you do client interviews, you really want to narrow down on interviewing people who are either your current buyers, so your current customers, or who are very much like your target customers that you are willing to sell to. Right, and you want to understand quite a lot of things, like how they see the market, how they see your product, how they see the market landscape, who are the key players, where they get information, how their day looks like, what jobs they want to accomplish, and so on and so on. And then another part which you also need to understand quite well is competition research. So it's like going into battle. It's much better to be prepared and know what you are facing, right, rather than just going randomly and just hoping it will hopefully turn out okay, right? So in competition research, you really want to understand quite a lot of details about your competitors, such as where their traffic is coming from, what kind of content they are using, what kind of marketing technologies. Very often, it's very helpful to look at what are call to actions that they are offering, right? Because it tells quite a lot of what they have learned, what works for them. For example, it may be quite clear, and we have seen it in some industries, that when first facing, let's say, visitors on their website, some industries are offering right away a free trial, right? Or they are offering, let's say, a demonstration, right? And that's quite good information to consider. So that's about the market. And then another thing is really to try to figure out big principles. How are you going to work in this market? And basically, you need to work on go-to-market strategy, right? And again, this is something you can do internally, but nevertheless, it is a cost because it will take time. Or you can work with external consultant, right? And if we look, what's the point of actually using external consultant, or why it's a good idea? There are many things. First of all, you probably would like to work with consultant who has plenty of experience with similar campaigns, with marketing, selling, let's say, in your own industry, and so on. Second thing is consultant brings objective view from outside, right? Consultant hopefully doesn't know your office politics, right? And they are not tied to some political considerations, right? So they can take a cold-blooded look from outside. Third thing is methodology, because again, strategy planning is not just something we do randomly or something. There's quite specific framework which works, right? 10 steps that we are using, or probably there are some other frameworks as well. And generally, the key thing I think for using consultant is because consultant is knowing what kind of questions to ask, right? Maybe consultant will not always have the answers, but at least he or she will be able to raise up important questions and ask, right? And key thing I would say that in go-to-market strategy is actually to do a pipeline calculation, right? And what I mean by that, I think lots of companies know what sales pipeline is, right? But then we also need to consider marketing pipeline so that we can build the full end-to-end picture. How are we going to land customers, right? And then if we go into details, we also can plan the cost. Just simply, if let's say we know we need to land 10 deals per year, we can calculate backwards. All right, if we need 10 deals, how many deals we need to negotiate? I would argue that probably we need to negotiate more than 10 deals because some deals just do not come through, right? So let's assume we need to negotiate 11 deals. Now, going backwards again, in how to get to negotiating 11 deals, for how many deals we need to prove value. So basically complete a successful trial or successful proof of concept, right? Probably I would say maybe 12, maybe 14, right? And this way we go back to how many opportunities we need to have, how many sales qualified leads, how many marketing qualified leads, how many leads, right? And then we can calculate how much in terms of marketing investment, how much in terms of advertising dollars will it cost for us to land the number of necessary leads, right? Necessary marketing qualified leads and so on. And now this calculation is extremely important, not only from understanding the marketing cost, but then, somebody needs to do a job, right? Because once you have marketing qualified lead, which you are passing over to sales, somebody in sales, and typically it's sales development representative, need actually to spend time with that lead. What does it mean? It means that probably it makes sense to search up and check that lead, let's say on LinkedIn, check their website, try to understand whether they fit your ideal customer profile. Probably you want to call up as well. And maybe you need to make more than one call to do follow-up and so on until you can qualify this lead. And probably that costs, I don't know, maybe an hour of time, right? And if you are expanding and if you are generating more leads, of course, you have more demand on time from SDRs. Then some leads are qualified into opportunities. Things get more interesting. You need your account executives to start working. Probably you also involve pre-sales engineers, right, to do proof of concept or some integration stuff, demonstrations, etc. Right, and then at the end of the day, you also need to do negotiation. So it means that probably your legal will have to spend time as well, right? And this approach allows us to understand how much resources would be necessary to actually meet the sales objectives. Also, it allows to understand what would be the cost and what would be restraints in terms of resources. So probably chances are that maybe you don't have sufficient number of salespeople. You need to hire more. Maybe your bottleneck actually is, let's say, pre-sales engineer, right, and so on. And then actually after that, after the deal has been closed, you also need additional resources, people who are working with the client on implementation. And particularly if we talk about enterprise clients, they typically require also integration, which is quite labor consuming. You need people to be laser focused on making sure that customers are successful, right? Because if that happens, they keep on paying, and after a while, if it is a software as a service business, it turns out into something very profitable. And then you need also customer support. The more users you have, the more likely they will have some issues that you need to support them with. So all in all, this international expansion is a quite significant exercise in planning, I would say.
Yeah, thank you for this great overview. I think another maybe question to look at is, okay, now there are clearly that there are some kind of one-time cost and there are some recurring or ongoing costs, like for instance, lead generation. So you need to invest into media. Probably you need also to invest into your pre-sales activities and customer retention activities and so on and so forth. So the question is, but how can we actually optimize the cost, or what can help us to reduce the cost? And here you mentioned about the strategy, and I think some of our listeners might think how the strategy comes to the game in terms of the cost. And maybe just to give an example here is that imagine that for instance, customer acquisition costs, right? If you have a proper strategy and you have planned your ideal customer profile and you have planned properly like your audience, you have spent enough time really like diving into the your target market and finding the right channels, reaching out your audience, so that can significantly decrease acquisition costs of your potential customers or leads, right? That's the one way of looking at it. Another one where the strategy can help you is if you have the ideal customer profile that can play a critical role for reducing number of unqualified leads passed over to your salespeople and creating the workload what actually will not bring any revenue. And again, having a proper lead qualification and scoring process in place can significantly reduce the need for SDRs or telesales or telemarketing people in your organization. Depends on the sales funnel you are implementing, and so forth. So, Roland, any additional examples of impact of strategy on the cost, or where the cost can be optimized?
Well, I think the greatest benefit of properly planning strategy and modeling pipeline is that actually you have quite a detailed overview of where the time is going, right? And when you see where the time goes, and time very often means also the cost, you can unearth opportunities for optimizing, automating, etc. And perhaps if you see that, let's say, your technical pre-sales is spending a lot of time on explaining the same things again and again, probably it's a good topic for a content, right? Because then you can just perhaps shoot video and just eliminate work of explanation. And so
yeah, I just here another example popped up in my mind about this recording, what you mentioned, like a video or something. Very often companies lead their visitors to the website and they expect them to sign up for the demo. And what we see that many companies spend really valuable time of their pre-sales resources on small value deals, right? Potential deals or something like that. And that's another great opportunity of leveraging marketing tools and content like video on demand, where you can pre-record actually a generic demo which explains benefits of your solution or product, and just provide it without any involvement of your real people resources, right? So that somebody who is signing up on the website can go through or watch this video on their own. And then if they really have an interest, or you can incorporate even some qualification mechanism in the video itself. There are different technologies available for that. So then you can have another level of engagement, which already involves your pre-sales resources with more qualified leads, right? And that's how you can significantly also reduce costs. Another way of, or where the cost can be generated, additional cost, is when you launch on this new market the value proposition which is maybe not tested well, right? That's another kind of potential issue. Secondly, it's also about how do you what is your offering, and if you are the service company and you are in your home market providing custom services where it's not only the sales process which takes a lot of time, but also like a buying process which is pretty lengthy and pretty complicated for the customers, because there is a lot of steps like building requirements, building the proposal and everything else. So it's actually quite costly for both, like a buyer and the seller. Instead, you might be considering going out with some prepackaged services, right? And that also can help you differentiate different type of customers and give them opportunity to already pre-qualify themselves for different packages what you are providing. If you are a smaller customer, that's for you. If you are mid-range customers, that's a different story, and so on and so forth. And also on your side, it might require less time, because if these are packaged offerings, they already have some specification, they have probably a price behind that and delivery mechanisms, so which again can be very useful for scalability of the same in international markets.
Yes, from my side, I also want to talk about two things. First, I want to elaborate on what you said about clients, and I think also this pipeline model planning very much helps in understanding what is really the size of deals that you need to go after, because you see companies very often from beginning are open to work with very different size customers, but if you consider how much would it cost to close the deal, you see that actually very often the lower threshold, let's say, of users or average size of the deal is pretty high, right? And then you need to very clearly differentiate between those customers that you are proactively going like hunting. You are using paid ads and you really want to close business with them, right? And other tier where you probably are not spending your advertising dollars, you are using such channels as search engine optimization, review sites, etc. And you provide as much as possible self-service because you just cannot afford to involve costly labor in serving that segment, right? So you need to be very clear who your ideal customer is and what kind of offering you can afford to offer them. Another thing, if we talk about the cost, is you can always consider using a partner channel, right? And this can be, let's say, resellers, or this could also be, let's say, companies like, as example, Also, or let's say also Microsoft, who have those large marketplaces available, right? And this may be sometimes a way to reduce your costs and give away the marketing and sales to some partner. But of course, you are giving away also your margin, right? So you need to, again, calculate very carefully so that your offering is attractive to your partners and they can make money and that you can make money as well, right? But that of course, is one other way to reduce costs. And another thing that I want to mention regarding costs is actually time, right? And time is always related to cost. And for and this is important, particularly for startups, because in my experience, I have had conversations with tons of startups, and very often, if we talk about demand generation, what they are saying is that, well, it's too early to talk about it because we need another 3 or 4 months to complete the product. And then it would be the right time to talk about generating demand. And that is wrong. That is wrong. That's a big mistake. And let me elaborate a bit about why is this a big mistake. You see, if you are focusing on delivering product, right, and let's say your product is ready on September 1, what happens? You have product ready, but do you have a queue at your doors with customers willing to pay for it? Most likely not, right? And if you look back a few episodes back, we had a guy from Dream Data, and they had actually excellent data about the length of SaaS buyer's journey, right? The buyer's journey is 233 days. It makes 7.6 months, right? And if you add on top of that a time, let's say a month, which is necessary to plan go-to-market strategy, another month, which is necessary to produce marketing content, set up marketing technologies, you look at gap almost of a year, right? And you cannot afford that. So I would say that if you are looking to launch your product, let's say from 1st of September, the latest time to start thinking about the demand generation is January. Or else you will end up with great product, but you won't have customers, you won't have ready demand, your competitors will basically eat your lunch, and you will lose your first mover advantage, etc., etc. So if you are looking to expand with new product, it's very, very important to just adjust this timing and make sure that when your product is ready and it hits the market, you have already generated sufficient demand for it, or else you have big financial gap that is quite difficult to close.
Yeah, this is a very important aspect as well, timing, and that is comes to again to this exercise of the strategy where you need to understand the length of the buyer journey and actually the cost of the same, right? So coming back to the original question, what the true cost of international expansion is, that we can just summarize what we have discussed quickly, is that one thing is that there are some one-time costs, like for instance, the planning, right? And that is something what we strongly advise not skipping, because that potentially can save a lot of money and time during the process itself. But then those are running costs, right? And don't underestimate what it means to generate enough demand. So that means that you need to really be very kind of precise in terms of how much marketing money you need to invest, not only the producing, for instance, your web pages or content or something like that, but really how much it will cost to distribute it and to deliver it to your potential audience, right? And how long it will take before this audience will start to convert into the leads, right? As Roland mentioned, it's about 8 months. Which means that if you calculate on top the production of the same and everything, so it's nearly to 10, 12 months of time frame what you need to consider, right? And then when the leads came in, it's only a beginning, because then you actually start nurturing them, you start converting them, optimizing, and so on and so forth. And here it very much depends on how efficient you will be with this process. And for that, you need to have enough capacity for the pre-sale resources, for the telemarketing or telesales resources who will do follow-ups in time, and so on and so forth. Otherwise, those investments in marketing, they will not simply deliver you expected result, because there will not be enough capacity to hand them over and do follow-ups. And then last but not least, it's about the success management, right? And how that will be involved into all of your activities and processes. Yeah, Roland, anything else to add from your side?
Well, as we discussed, this time we don't go very deep into software as a service business model, right? And I think that's justified, because that's another and quite lengthy conversation. But if we consider that you are expanding to new markets outside your country, and you are offering software as a service product, you also need to consider time to profitability and how to finance that gap. Because what we talked about was the length of buyer's journey. However, if you have software as a service product with monthly payments, then you need also to consider that after the first month you will not be able to cover your costs. So basically, until you hit profitability, you have, and statistics shows that in general, SaaS businesses cover the cost of acquiring customer from 8 to 20 months, actually, right? And if you add to that the buying cycle, you need also to consider how are you going to finance this kind of gap. But again, that's for conversation another time. But if that's software as a service business, then that's the cost of financing comes as a big factor as well.
Yeah, it's a great addition for sure. Thanks for mentioning that. And as Roland mentioned, so our upcoming episodes will be covering more in depth those growth planning aspects of technology business. So please stay tuned if you are interested, and you can always just subscribe to our upcoming episodes by using hashtag FryTalks on LinkedIn, or subscribing to ibd-consulting. This is our company, and then we usually publish updates about upcoming episodes in our LinkedIn profile. You also can use YouTube channel, what we have created for that purpose, where we kind of have all the content available for your convenience, as well as subscribe to our podcast version of the same, FryTalks, on platform of your preference. So really, thank you for being with us, and we are looking forward to continue this conversation with you in upcoming episodes. So if you have any specific question you would like us to cover for the growth or any other aspect of your business, please share it with us in whatever channel you prefer. So thanks again. I wish you a great rest of the Friday and wonderful weekend, and stay tuned.
Bye.